initiative has been faced with the challenge of funding. It's supposed to be partnership funding. Some funding is supposed to come from donors, from development partners, international bilateral institutions, and some funding is supposed to come from state government. That is where the least funding is coming. The least access to funding is presently. Many states has their priorities, and probably this is not part of the priority on their budget list. They are probably thinking of surviving first before learning. Probably paying salaries, having people have money to feed is ahead of having children learn safely in schools. So they just resort to closing the schools altogether, and we're waiting for things to come back to normal. So I would say funding. Funding has been why interest in the Safe School Initiative is waning. Funding has not been exactly as envisaged from the planning stage.
Sorry to butt in, Kemi, but if you talk about funding, they said the exact amount raised so far for the initiative is not yet known, but you may want to recall that in August 2014, the Presidential Committee on the Northeast Intervention raised about 80 billion naira, and in the same year received a donation of $1.5 million from Norway, $1 million from African Development Bank, $50,000 from the AFDB president, and €1 million from the British government. So in 2015, Switzerland and the US pooled in $8 and $2 million respectively, as well as Qatar $2 million, and the Nigerian business community $10 million. So do you feel that there is need to prove? Because when you say there is not enough funding, this is huge, humongous amount of money that had been poured into this. And I know that the Senate had actually, tried to probe into, this issue of funding and all of that. How much transparency do you think had gone into, the expeditious use of this funding?
According to the implementation plans, we have high figures on things that the expenditure is supposed to go on. Let's say, for example, to equip national response centers in states, they call national response centers for attacks on education. For 2023, they are looking to spend 225 million naira on that. 2024, another 214 million naira. And 2025, 203 million naira. That's just one item on the expenditure budget. The budget for this initiative is huge. So what I would implore us to do, that is citizens, civil societies, concerned people, is ask for accountability and transparency in all of this. Let us sit, let those in charge know that we are so much interested in getting the state of progress, this much funding from international donors. When we get money from international bodies, it's not free. They expect some things from us in return. If they don't expect anything at all, they expect results. Because when one side of the world sneezes, every other side of the world catches some amount of cold. It might just vary in how much cold they catch. Nigeria is so delicate to the world population that Nigeria must not break. The population of Nigeria, if we spill into the world, there will be a refugee crisis. So every one of us is concerned. Let me don't even say concerned. Every one of us is concerned, because what happens in our backyard eventually gets into our room. Every one of us should sit down and let the people in charge know that we want access to how this money is being spent and how much progress has been made, and from all the people that are supposed to donate, who has given, who has not given. Who has not given, let him tell us why not.
And, amidst these funding concerns, which, many people, including yourself, sharing, the British government has also promised, more support, saying that there are a lot of similarities in the way Nigeria is tackling terror. And
there are a lot of
similarities in the way Nigeria is, fighting terror, and in the UK as well. But, this year is symbolic because it's 10 years now looking at the abduction of, the Chibok girls, and here we are, a number of them are still in captivity. Ibrahim, earlier on was reading out some figures even current statistics of, school kidnappings that we still have on record, even as at 2024. So as an observer, you're also a stakeholder in the educational system. This talk about security, it's not just confined to the north anymore or the northeast anymore. What are your thoughts really on how far we have come in ensuring safe schools?
The time between the incident that triggered the initiative and now is 10 years. But the time when this initiative come into play is 2021. Between that time, between 2014 and 2015, there are other progress that came up, like the Safe School Declaration was in 2015. President Buhari got to sign on this initiative in 2019. A policy plan was developed and launched in 2021. It was after the launching of that development of the policy plan, that was when this concerted effort into financing actually came about. So governance take processes of developing policy before implementing solutions so that things will not be done haphazardly. So we can have a road plan to what we want to achieve and the timelines and the metrics to which we will measure how much progress we've made. So I would say it's not, the Safe School Initiative has not been on for 10 years. It has been, the plan was rolled out 2021. So let's start measuring 2021 rather than...
But in terms of lessons that we have learned since the 2014 mass abduction case in schools that, precipitated the launch of the Safe School Initiative, have we learned sufficient lessons yet? I know you've spoken about a 3-year, observatory plan. Yes, we are in the 2024 to 2026. Yes. But, from the periods that have occurred under review, have we moved on? How have we moved on? How have we fared in learning lessons? That's the question.
Going by the events that we are seeing, it doesn't seem like we've put to use whatever is it we've learned. The number of children that were abducted in 2014, if we calculate this year, we must have something very close to that number. So even if we learn the lessons, have we put into use, have we gotten results? It's not the process, it's the result that matters. Children whose lives were cut short or who are suffering the after-effect trauma of all these are not concerned about what we are doing. They are concerned about, can they go back to school? If they are not going back to school, can they stay home and still be safe? Okay, if they stay home and not learn, how would their future be like?
Some people say they don't want to go back to school.
Some don't want to go back to school. Seeing that kind of trauma, one just have to wait. Can I just survive on my farm and let the future sort out itself? So I would say, I don't know how much we've learned, but I know we've not put whatever we've learned into use. The event does not support that we've put it into use.
That's right. So with the take-off fund of 3.2 billion naira, half of the amount of the project that which came from the private sector. Now we are seeing the collaboration of UK, who is saying that they want to partner with the government because in 2014, working with Gordon Brown, that's the former British Prime Minister, and the United Nations Special Envoy for Global Education, the Global Business Coalition for Education, as well as World at School, and here we are, several years after. You're saying that we should start looking at it from 2021. What difference would the collaboration with the UK government, what would they do differently this time around?
The UK government are one of the development partners on this initiative. It is not as if they call the pace. We have several other nations and international development partners, bilateral institutions. It is still up to us to decide how we want it to go. The best they can do is advisory and funding. So it's still up to us to know what we want and how we want to achieve it.
In knowing what we want to do, because other analysts have actually seen it as, why do we have the Ministry of Finance saying to this initiative, why not the Ministry of Education, who can actually draft policy framework, who understands the terrain of education and what the demands of education? Do you also buy into that criticism?
Before I worked with government ministries of education and then work with wider stakeholders in education, I thought this way too.